Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Kate Franco. I'm the Senior Vice President with Claremont Companies and this year's Chair of the Greater Boston Real Estate Board. We're so excited to have you here with us today. We have over 120 participants registered from over 17 schools, from Massachusetts to Michigan. We really have quite a big footprint out there today, and we're so excited. This program has really been designated to introduce you to the fabulous, wonderful world of commercial and residential real estate in Boston. But first, let me tell you a little bit about the Greater Boston Real Estate Board. We are one of the oldest associations in the country. We have over 12,000 members. To our members, we provide advocacy, education, and networking opportunities. We're really unique in that we have 5 divisions in our association, 4 commercial and 1 residential. Let me tell you a little bit about each association that you're going to hear from today. We have the excuse me. A little bit of a cold going on, so I apologize. We have the Building Owners and Managers Association, BOMA, and you'll hear from representatives from BOMA today. We have the Commercial Brokers Association, CBA. We have the Real Estate Finance Association, REPA. We have the Commercial Brokers Association and also the Greater Boston Association of Realtors, GBAR. And on our residential side, we have the Massachusetts Apartment Association. You'll be hearing from members of each of these divisions shortly, and you'll learn a little bit about the different intricacies of the industry and what it has to offer and what types of careers you could find in these industries. Following the panel presentation, we'll ask you to join us in breakout groups. Using the meeting link that was sent to you a little bit earlier today, we're going to use this link to split up into 4 different breakout rooms so that you can really hone in on the division that's piqued your interest, and you'll have the opportunity to ask questions and learn more in that industry. Just a few housekeeping items. All attendees will be muted. You're welcome to send us your questions using the Q&A box on the bottom of your screen, and this conversation is being recorded. I'd now like to introduce today's panel and get our program started for you. To get us started today, it's my pleasure to introduce Tanisha Salmon with Keller Williams Realty and also a member of the Greater Boston Association of Realtors. Tanisha?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to learn about the exciting career opportunities in the real estate sector. My name again is Tanisha Salmon. I am a realtor with Keller Williams Realty in Easton. I serve as the committee chair of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee at the Greater Boston Association of Realtors. I have been helping buyers, sellers, and renters with their real estate needs for over 7 years, and hands down the best career decision that I have ever made. And today I'm really excited to share with you the career path to become a real estate agent or realtor. So you may ask, why are so many people attractive to the real estate career? First, it gives you the flexibility to be your own boss. You can set your work schedule, develop your client base, and decide on your own marketing materials. It's an excellent client service, and again, equates to is referrals in the business. Most of our business comes from referrals, so it's very important to practice excellent real estate service, as it equates to referrals and relationships with your client base. You have the opportunity to create a business plan that expands beyond the real estate, buying and selling. You could open your own brokerage. What I love about it is the flexibility to be able to take vacation and spend time with loved ones. The business growth in real estate, honestly, there's no limit. It's really up to you. You earn what you put in. And so you can be as big as you like. Our next slide, I will share with you the difference between a realtor and a real estate agent. And you're like, aren't they the same? Well, a real estate agent is anyone who's licensed to help people buy and sell commercial or residential property. A realtor is a trademark term that refers to a real estate agent who is an active member of the National Association of Realtors, the largest trade association in the United States. Now, there are over 1.5 realtor members, and in the state of Massachusetts, there are 26,000 realtor members. I am a realtor member of the Greater Boston Association of Realtors, where we have over 10,000 realtor members. So it's a very competitive marketplace. Now, as a real estate agent, you will have the opportunity to work with buyers and sellers in the marketplace. They're the buyer's agent and a seller's agent. A buyer's agent works solely on the behalf of a buyer to promote the buyer's utmost interests with good faith, loyalty, and trust. And they're the one who are on the ground with the buyers to identify the best home for their family. A seller's agent is someone who lists the property, they work with the seller. So they help the seller to determine the best market value for their property. They handle the negotiations and really, they really work for the seller's best interest. Now, on our next slide, you're like, wow, how does one get paid being a real estate agent or a realtor? The vast majority of real estate agents are compensated by their broker via a commission that the broker collects. So we won't go much into the percentage and things like that, the fee that's paid, but here is just an example of a breakdown of what that will look like. When you list a home, there is a fee that is, the broker will charge to list that property. And then that fee is shared between the buyer agency and the seller agency. And then also the broker gets paid from that fee. And then that's when you will get your commission. A typical realtor completes in about 12 transactions in 2022 and had a gross median income of about $56,400. While longer term realtor members with more than 16 years of experience earned a median income of about $80,700. So it's pretty much a very lucrative career, and it all depends on how much work you put in. Again, there is no ceiling, but this number just kind of gives you an average of what a real estate agent will make during their career. Now, on the next slide, now this is something some of these things that I wish I knew before I started my career in real estate. And number one is that your friends and family probably won't use you as their real estate agent. So don't feel bad about that. It happens to all of us. But seriously, you really have to set yourself apart in the business. As you see, there's a lot of realtor members in the marketplace, and it's a very competitive business. And so Your work ethic will be very important. Your skills in marketing, whether online or video or even both, is essential to growing your business. Now, it's also a feast or famine business. 1 month, right? You'll have about 7 closings, and you'll be all excited on top of the world and, ready to plan your next vacation. And then the next month, you don't have anything. So the key really is to plan your budget, right? And know that this is, it's not a business where every month you're going to have a closing. So budgeting is very important. And another thing is never count your commission before your transaction close. So once you have a deal on the contract, you'll get very excited and you're like, oh my God, it's payday. But just know that there's so many things can happen during the process of getting a house under contract. From inspection issues to the buyer not getting financing to appraisal issues, title issues. So there's so many things that could not make a deal successful. And so you don't want to really get too excited until you have closed that deal, or even spend the money that you think you're going to get before that deal is closed. But overall, real estate is extremely fun. It can be stressful. You're your own boss again, so you're working. I worked 24 hours a day, pretty much, 7 days a week. So you really want to make sure that this is something that you will enjoy doing. And for me, it's really exciting to be able to help people acquire the biggest purchase that they will make in their lifetime. Now, the next slide I will share with you is, if you are considering getting your real estate license, it's a rather low threshold for entry into the industry. You need to be at least 18 years old and have a valid Social Security number. You will have to take a 40-hour Massachusetts real estate course, either online or in person at a real estate accredited school. Apply for the real estate license after you have completed the 40-hour course. And once you get your completion certificate, you can then schedule your your exam. You have to pass the 120 questions exam. You could do that online or in person. Once you pass the exam, you then would have to pay $150 to the state to get your real estate license, get your photo taken, which is the exciting part. And that's it. You got your real estate license, and now it's the time to join a brokerage and really get to work. Now, if you have any questions, we'll be meeting again in the breakout room. So I hope to see you there. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Tanisha. It's now my pleasure to introduce Allison Powers, Executive Vice President of JLL and President-elect of the Commercial Brokers Association. Allison?
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for having me. I'm Allison Powers with JLL. I've been in the commercial real estate industry for about 15 years. I started my career at GBREB, and I've been in JLL for about 4 years now. I'm happy to follow Tanisha because there's a lot of similarities between the residential and commercial sectors, but there's also a lot of differences. We actually operate under the same license as a residential broker. So that 40-hour course Tanisha mentioned, if you want to be a commercial broker, you take that same exact course. It's 99% focused on residential real estate, but it's, commercial brokers have the same fiduciary responsibilities to their clients, and we have the same licenses as a residential broker. That's probably the biggest similarity, but there's a lot of differences. So, first and foremost, the product types we work on. So we're not working on residential assets, working on commercial assets. So commercial assets, office, industrial, R&D flex, life sciences, retail, medical, hotels, multifamily housing, and data centers. Those are sort of the most common commercial real estate product types. In the commercial real estate industry, it's more of a corporate job. It's Monday through Friday, long hours, but we're not really working on the weekends. Tours are done during the week. I think that's something people often don't understand about commercial. They think, oh, you must wake up on Saturday and show properties. No, we're a Monday through Friday industry. But we work on behalf of investors or users of real estate. So when I say investors, I'm not talking about someone who wants to buy and live in a home. I'm talking about, it could be a individual, a group of investors. It could be a family. It could be a corporation. It could be an insurance company. It could be a financial institution. It could be a real estate investment trust. An investor wants to buy a commercial real estate asset and generate income off of it, and eventually, likely sell it for a lot more than they paid for it. And how they do that is by leasing it to tenants, and depending on the product type, retail buildings, you're leasing them to retail tenants. Office buildings, you're leasing them to office tenants. So, very different than the residential industry. Typically, commercial brokers specialize based on service lines. They also specialize based on product type. So me personally, I am predominantly an office broker, and I'm focused on the suburban market, and I focus on leasing. So, you've got sales brokers and you've got leasing brokers, and you've got suburban brokers and you've got urban brokers. And then you've got brokers that might do just life sciences, might do just office, might do just retail. Typically you have one path and you're focused on one product type. You become somewhat of an expert in your product type, and you kind of stick to your lane and become an expert, on your market and on your product type. So, depending on, your interest, or it might just be luck because it's a competitive industry, you kind of end up focused on a certain thing, and you'd likely stay in that career path throughout your time in the industry. When we talk about capital markets or investment sales or debt and structured finance, those all fall under the sales of commercial real estate assets. So if you're working in capital markets, you're selling real estate. Debt and structured finance, you're financing real estate. If you work in leasing, which is what I do, you're basically trying to generate income for those assets. And you either represent the landlord or the owner of that asset, or the tenant that would likely lease space in that asset. So we wear two hats. So from the agency leasing side, an investor or owner of a commercial real estate property would hire a commercial broker to represent their interests in leasing the property. So our goal is to market the property to the commercial real estate industry, and try to find tenants to lease up the building, to create value in the building. The other side of the industry is tenant representation. In that regard, you are representing users of real estate. So you're representing, maybe it's a law firm who has a lease at, One Post Office Square in Boston, or you could be representing a technology firm who might be based in Waltham, or you could be representing, a store that's looking to open, a restaurant or a retail store. So you'd represent the interest of that tenant, and you'd try to get them the best deal possible. So there's really a lot you can do under the commercial real estate branch. And from a leasing and sales perspective, whatever you focus on, there's a lot of different aspects of it. I would say getting into the industry is very competitive. There's a lot of different ways to break in and places to start. Oftentimes we see people start as what we call operations or client service associates, where you're working for a particular team and helping them with the sort of the day-to-day tasks they ask you to. Oftentimes people start in research. There's a lot of research that goes into our industry. We're always looking at trends. We're looking at data. We're looking at what tenants are doing, what landlords are looking for. And that's a really great place to start. A lot of people start out as financial an analyst, which is, I think, the most important thing for real estate brokers to understand is how to value a building. So how does an investor look at an asset? How do they understand what it's worth? And that's a really great place to start. A lot of people start in marketing. Commercial real estate, we have very sophisticated marketing departments. You've probably seen flyers out there or banners on buildings that showcase, what the asset is. That's a huge part of our industry as well. So there's a bunch of ways in. Most people I speak to that are young, trying to break into the industry, don't necessarily know what path they want to take. They sort of understand that they have an interest in commercial real estate brokerage, but don't know, I don't know if I want to be a suburban office broker or if I want to focus on, hotels. And I think that comes with time. I think my advice to people is to get in the door, start out in one of these entry-level positions and figure out what you like. What I do as an office broker is very different than what a hotel broker does, or even very different than what a sales broker selling office building does, as from the leasing perspective. So it's all very different, but our goals are the same. Tanisha talked about sort of salary and, how you make money in the industry. Similarities and differences, I would say it's definitely sort of an eat what you kill industry, similar to the residential side. People work really hard and they hustle. When you're younger in the industry, you typically, a lot of times you're on a salary or a draw where you're getting paid a salary and, you quote unquote pay it back as you do transactions. And as you progress in the industry, you would likely be commission based, and there's a lot of upside. People can make a lot of money in the industry. It's open-ended. You can sell 100 buildings a year. You could sell 2. The markets change, quite a bit. The market's in an interesting place right now where the sales market isn't robust like it was 2 or 3 years ago. Leasing market is spotty. Our life sciences brokers aren't doing, the transactions they were doing 2 or 3 years ago, because there's just not lending to those types of companies right now. Suburban brokers right now tend to be doing better than urban brokers, which is interesting. So there's always, the market shifts quite a bit, similar to Tanisha mentioned. So you really never know what a year is going to bring. So you have to be prepared to kind of, take it 1 year at a time and, grow your business slowly. In terms of commercial real estate services companies, there's a bunch. These are the larger ones. There's smaller ones as well. I don't know if a lot of these might ring a bell, but these are the types of companies that would have entry-level opportunities for people graduating from college. They would have opportunities in leasing and sales, and then the list goes on: project management, property management, any service, around commercial real estate. So if you're interested, in that type of career, I would, make sure you have these names written down. And those websites would showcase entry-level opportunities for young people looking to get in the industry. Again, it is competitive. Oftentimes there aren't a lot of opportunities at each firm, especially in a, down market. But I would continue to, network with commercial brokers, look at these websites, look at the opportunities that are listed, and try to kind of research, what you might be interested in. And with that, I will hand it over to the next panelist.
Thank you, Allison. I would now like to introduce Ravi Rakhnath, CFO of Berkshire Residential and President-elect of the Real Estate Finance Association. Ravi?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's Ravi Rakhnath. I'm currently the CFO, as introduced, of Berkshire Residential Investments. And the good thing about going after some of my other colleagues here is I have the ability to reflect a little bit on what's up on the screen and how it contextually aligns to more a global perspective in commercial real estate. I've been in the industry just under 30 years, and the benefit of seeing my career evolve and someone such as yourself coming into the industry is you could start at any point of these 5 areas within this diagram on the screen and evolve your career differently. Berkshire Residential, from our perspective, we touch at least all of the verticals here on this on the summary, we are the largest bridge loan lender in the country on the multifamily space, and we are also one of the largest property owners in the multifamily space. When you think of that, it touches a lot of different aspects of your career or where it could go. And what I'll do in a very brief way is hopefully touch on each of these bubbles and exactly where career path and chart in a course on could look for each of your respective journey. Starting with the ownership, as some of my colleagues reference, we're on the other side of the equation here. We buy properties. We go out there as a firm and we look at different asset classes. I've sat in multiple CFO seats over the years, and in my role, when we go out there, I'm responsible for the health check of the firm. I'm responsible for strategy evolving significantly where our balance sheet moves from year to year, and also our income statement. And when we think of ownership more in the direction of what that could look like, it touches all the commercial real estate asset classes that we spoke about. But within there are multiple career paths, right? Within the CFO organization, they could be charting your course, whether it's directly reporting on things like accounting, whether it's doing analytics and understanding the balance sheet and the P&L, or capital markets, where it's responsible for raising debt across all the platforms, assets, and financing and sourcing those acquisition in a very timely manner. So if you think of a general asset and it's a $1 million acquisition, that could be a career path where you go out there within your respective areas, acquire those assets, and be part of sourcing debt or equity. So that's one area within the organization. The second area is heading up an acquisition within the ownership function. What that means is it's full underwriting of a deal, understanding what the dynamics are specifically in an acquisition. That's what we refer to as our internal rate of returns, or a multiple on a specific acquisition, or return on costs. And within that acquisition function, it moved from career charting from an analyst level all the way up to the head of portfolio management or acquisition within that respective organizations. The third area within ownership is property management. And that's where you get to see the inner workings of how an asset works. So, that's responsible for ensuring that everyone shows up to, whether it's an office asset, a multifamily asset, a retail asset, ensuring that asset is functioning correctly day over day and ensuring all the tenants' needs are met. Also, one of the key and critical parts of the property management function is ensuring the asset is secured, it's ensuring that it's properly insured, and all related to operating P&L and the performance of that asset is pretty critical within that property management function. And another area within this specific ownership is legal. And legal is at the heart of what we do from a commercial real estate side. And that could be, starting your career where you actually transition over time between an analyst to the legal side where you're reviewing the legal structure of certain documents. So that's within ownership. Lending, that's the folks who actually make commercial real estate a good return as an attractive investment. You heard from some of my colleagues on the residential side and both in the commercial real estate. Whenever we are acquiring an asset, and it depends on the environment that you're acquiring it, on the commercial real estate side, we go to lenders to help facilitate leverage. And that varies from 50% in today's environment to the years gone where we got 65 to 75% of leverage. In Berkshire Residential, our firm, we luckily have a lending arm, and we are the largest bridge loan multifamily lender in the country. I also in prior lives, worked within that sector where you get to see the full nuance of underwriting a deal to closing on a transaction. And that area up here in Boston, it's very well banked in terms of lending. There are very several career paths, whether it's on the bank side, whether it's in on the insurance side, and also agency lending within that space that could be potential career charting opportunities. And then the public sector, it's an area where very helpful and important, and that covers both sides on public-private partnership, and also the areas where they are very much facilitating the growth and transformation of communities across Boston. Up here in Massachusetts, it's at the heart of everything that we do in terms of being able to drive value and change within the commercial real estate landscape. And within there, there are many career paths, whether it's public drafting of policies, being able to assist with the design of our city and so forth. And then on the services side, there are many things within there from a career charting perspective. And if we look at real estate, at the heart of everything that we own, we borrow from, or we are actually assisting in designing, the persons who are actually helping us to facilitate the growth of an asset and actually the design of an asset are from folks like the architecture firms and everyone else in between that service line. And there's so many different career paths within the services that that support the industry. Without that bubble, the real estate doesn't exist, and that could vary from insurance brokerage to every and anything else in between. And then on the brokerage side, you heard from some of my other colleagues. I wouldn't really spend a lot more time in there, but just as critical, we in the commercial real estate side and the residential side need brokers to help us to sell and purchase assets and help us to finance assets. And several of my colleagues in the industry, what they have in place is very good career progression through either one of the first four verticals through the grounding within brokerage. The next slide is up on the screen. It's a little bit of a recap on the industries, but it touches the major real estate asset classes that we have. So within the commercial real estate side, you could be a specialist in any of the other items that I mentioned on the previous page by looking at individually one of these asset classes, or you could have a specialization of one of these asset classes. And what do I mean by that is on the ownership side, when we're acquiring assets within a structure, whether that's a fund or a separately managed account, some funds are created where they only focus on office, retail, apartments, like Berkshire, where I'm the CFO for. We focus primarily on apartments and multifamily. That's 99% of what we do. But some other shops around Boston could be multi-asset class, where they focus on all of the asset classes that are up on the screen. So when you're charting your career, it's good to get grounded in some of these so that you understand the length and breadth of real estate. Also, throughout different real estate life cycles, some of them are more relevant than others. And then just in terms of career path and career charting, there's so many things to get in there, right? And I think at the heart of a lot of what I see from a very successful career in real estate is understanding the numbers, understanding and being able to translate the value, whether it's to a lender, an investor, an employee. It's being able to articulate that transformation that we are actually making. When we purchase an asset, the plan is actually taking it from one specific income generation number to another, and hopefully it's higher in different environments. But being able to explain and articulate that is very important. And last but not least, I mean, some of the things that we see across the real estate finance organization and the greater GBREB is the ability to network. And what we present as an organization at the center of it all is being able to chart a career in real estate, being able to communicate effectively with your colleagues, being able to connect within a broader network, whether that's within the real estate finance organization or within the real estate industry. And we do offer significant exposure to that. We actually have through REFA an ability for students to sign up and be student members, get access to events, educational programs, networking opportunities. We also have a REFA job board where we post a lot of open positions that could be pretty useful if and when you're ready to apply for connectivity across Boston and various opportunities. But if there is any questions, I'll answer those separately or in the breakout session. But that's a little bit of an overview from my end.
Thank you, Robbie. It's now my pleasure to introduce Jennifer Twombly, General Manager of Rock Hill Management and the President of the Building Owners and Managers Association. Jennifer?
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me today. I'm actually really happy that Ravi just ended on that slide talking about skill sets, because it was something I was just thinking about, and how to enter into property management or commercial real estate management, which is what I focus on primarily. There's so many different skills that can lead to a successful career in commercial real estate management. To give you a little background about what I do now and kind of my career path in my role, I started entry level working for a third party real estate services company, GBREB, which Allison also mentioned she worked there as well. I think she was there when I started. And I started in an entry level role supporting property managers as well as the executive vice president to property management for GBREB in this region. And then I moved on to become an assistant property manager, an operations manager, a property manager, a senior property manager, and now I'm a general manager. In my role as a general manager for Rock Hill, I oversee 7 buildings in Boston, a little over 4 million square feet. And so the titles are a little bit interchangeable amongst our different companies in commercial real estate when it comes to property management. There's really a wide variety of the role that fits the title. And I think that's one important thing to note about commercial real estate management is that there is a career path. Like, it's a very, if you like, when you start in real estate management, if you like what you're doing and you see yourself having a career there, there is a very clear path to get to the next step. There is a very career-oriented path to say, I'm going to now go be a property manager from an assistant property manager. Or once I master being a property manager of a large high-rise building, or maybe it's a large campus of buildings, then my goal is to oversee multiple properties and other property managers. So it is kind of unique in that sense. I think I went to business school, and I think that a lot of people I graduated with, once they had their first role at a company, it wasn't always clear where they were going to move from there. And that wasn't even just if they were unhappy with what they were doing. It just wasn't always necessarily obvious as to how you could move up and where the opportunities would present themselves. And in commercial real estate management, I would say that it is very easy to kind of position yourself to be noticed for a role with additional responsibility once you master your current role. Opportunities do tend to come up pretty often, they come up more often when buildings are changing hands. So right now, it has been a little bit difficult to hire during the pandemic because we do typically work in the office 5 days a week. We are the eyes and ears on the ground, not only for the tenants now, but also for the building owners. And so right now I work for a building owner who also manages their properties. So I work for the owner. Whereas in the past, I've worked for a third party where we're hired by the owner to manage the property for them. So my owner or asset manager could live all the way across the country and only visit the site once a quarter or once every 6 months. Or we could have a foreign owner where they may have an asset team in the United States and they might visit the property again once a quarter, once a year. It's not consistent. It really can depend on the situation, depend on the property, depend on the ownership, depend on, right now it depends on the fund that we own properties in and how we report to our investors and report to our, right now we're, reporting to a variety of different groups because we also have to report to our lenders. And so that's another interesting part of this, is that you could feel a little siloed. This is the commercial property management is more of a corporate role, similar to what Allison was mentioning. It's definitely business hours, 5 days a week. We're not really working too much on the weekends unless there's an emergency or there's some sort of weekend project that causes us to come in on the weekend. But, and so it is predictable. And when it comes to scheduling and what you need to accomplish. So like every month, the types of reports that you need to complete, the types of tasks you need to complete. But the interesting thing about commercial real estate management is that every day can be completely different from the last. So managers and their teams are very dependent on each other. It's very important to work as a team when you're in commercial real estate management. No one person can make everything happen at a property, especially large properties. So we work with a variety of different support groups, cleaning, security, engineering, as well as many outside vendors that are brought in for more specialized tasks. We get involved in construction a lot, both running construction for building space for tenants and owning the contract for that, as well as just oversight on tenant projects within the buildings, or oversight on lobby renovations or major mechanical upgrades or sustainability focused upgrades. There's a wide variety of types of things we get involved in, and that's where I was going with the skill sets in the beginning, is that if you're really good at accounting, or if you have an accounting background, or if you're really good at customer service, or if you're very process driven and can really see yourself in an operations role, property management provides opportunities to people who have skills in all of those areas. And then you can also kind of dabble in those different areas where you may not be as strong. And so entry-level roles, I touched on this a bit, but right now we have a couple tenant coordinators or administrators that would typically be the entry-level role in a commercial real estate asset that came from security, and they already know the building, they kind of know the tenants, they know information that a recent college graduate may not know. So sometimes having that level of experience is more beneficial than just having an education experience. Some people who get into leasing or brokerage and who aren't as comfortable with the commission side of being paid, or maybe they thought sales was for them, but it really wasn't, may transition to property management, and vice versa. Some people who cannot get a role in entry level for brokerage or leasing, especially if they want something in a downtown urban atmosphere, may start as a tenant coordinator or property management administration and build their connections in the brokerage community to try to jump over to a brokerage role. And then this, is kind of alluding to any support functions. So we have an in-house accounting department, we have an in-house marketing and legal department. And so working in some form of support for commercial real estate management can also be an entryway into property management. And we really have a wide variety of people who are all different walks from college. And you don't have to have a degree in management or business management or property management to get into commercial real estate management. There's all different types of degrees that enter this workforce. The one other thing I wanted to mention is that each building or each property typically acts as its own little business. So you have your own reporting, it's typically held in its own entity, and there's really like a strong way to have a sense of ownership over your role when you're in commercial real estate management.
Thank you, Jennifer. Last but not least, it's my pleasure to introduce Jessica Bonapane, Senior Vice President with National Development and President of the Massachusetts Apartment Association. Jessica?
Thank you so much, Kate. It's my pleasure to be here today. Like Kate mentioned, my name is Jessica Bonapane. I am the Senior Vice President of Residential Properties for National Development, and I'm also the 2023 President of the Massachusetts Apartment Association. So I work for National Development, which is a local real estate service firm here in the greater Boston area. We offer development, construction, investment, and property management services. I personally oversee our residential portfolio, which is made up of 12 communities in the greater Boston market, including everything from urban high-rise to suburban garden style to mixed-use communities that include retail elements. Some of the properties you may know in the area are Station Landing in Medford, Ink Block in the South End, and Market Street in Lynnfield. I've been with the company for 9 years, but I've been in the industry since 2005. I sort of took a very windy path into property management, and I think if you speak to a number of property managers, you would probably find similar stories, and that we all mostly just sort of fell into the industry. And the reason being is that there typically aren't programs at universities or colleges that focus solely on property management. You'll find hospitality programs, and you'll find other programs that might train you with certain skills that are applicable to property management, but it's very rare to find a degree or certificate program that's specific to this. I'm hopeful that the universities will start to see the value in property management and start to introduce more career paths and more educational opportunities, as it's a really fantastic field. Me personally, like I said, I sort of fell into the industry. I originally went to school for engineering. I have both my undergraduate and graduate degrees in engineering, and I did work in the engineering field, both on the private sector and in state government for a number of years, and just sort of got to the point where I felt like it just wasn't a good fit for me. This is going to date me a little bit, but at the time I actually responded. I had sort of dipped my toes into real estate. I did receive my realtor's license on the side, and ultimately sort of haphazardly responded to a classified ad in the Boston Globe that was for a property management position for a new lease-up community that was in the North Shore of Boston. Ultimately had no idea what I was getting into, but it was the best decision I ever made for my career and my personal life. Property management is, and I think Jennifer echoed a lot of this, is just a really interesting field to work in. No 2 days are ever the same. You're always presented with new challenges and problems to solve. And really that sort of speaks to the same side of my brain that was attracted to engineering. I love to solve problems and puzzles, and property management always presents new ones. I've been in the industry for 18 years, and there's always something new that confronts me on a daily basis. And I really get excited about working and collaborating with my teams to solve those problems and to ultimately keep our residents happy. Jennifer really talked a little, she talked a lot about what goes into property management. And it's very similar on both commercial and residential sides. I think the difference is that our tenants on the residential side are actually the apartment dwellers. So they're the residents of your community. This is their home. So they're there 24/7. And it's very important that they're living in a home that is clean, that is secure, and that they feel welcome and part of a community. So there's a very strong emphasis on customer service as well as hospitality. So I think let me talk a little bit about there are multiple career paths within property management. So there's sort of two career paths if you're working on site. There's sort of the leasing and office management side. So typically a property would be overseen by a community manager or a general manager. And then underneath that person would be an assistant manager. There may be a leasing manager or multiple leasing consultants, and there may also be someone in sort of a resident relations role. And the size of the team is really dependent on the size of the property. So we typically look at about one person on staff per 100 apartment units. So if you have a smaller community, it might be sort of a one-person show in terms of the office. And then that person, as a result, is obviously wearing multiple hats on a daily basis. So they're collecting rents, they are paying bills, they are leasing apartments, they're just handling any resident issues that need to be taken care of. They're communicating with the the maintenance team to make sure that any service orders that come in are taken care of, and that the residents' apartments everything's functioning throughout the building and throughout the apartments. Now, on a larger property where say you have, 300 apartments or 500 apartments, you would have a much larger team on site. So you would have the general manager is going to oversee that entire team of both the office and leasing staff as well as the maintenance staff. And they may have multiple leasing agents. They may have multiple assistant managers. A traditional assistant manager role is going to be responsible for handling all of the rent collection as well as the bill payments, and typically helping out with renewals. And, I think the crux of working in property management is, although you may have one set job description, we really work as a team together. So it's really all about collaborating as a group and making sure whatever the residents' needs are, that they get taken care of on a daily basis. So you may come into work with sort of your to-do list of the 10 things you want to accomplish that day. And it may get a little bit sidetracked because a resident may come in and tell you that there's a leak in their apartment. Or that the lights aren't working, or you may have 10 people walk in the building and decide that they want to tour the community and potentially become residents there. So you really have to have a lot of flexibility. You have to be the type of person that can really pivot from one thing to the next, but then be able to switch gears and go back to what you were working on originally, whether it was processing bill payments or whether it was putting together a leasing report for the week. So these are sort of the things that I absolutely love about working in the industry, because you have lots of variety on a daily basis. You never have 2 days that are the same. So it really keeps you focused, energized, enthusiastic about working on site. As well as what I've told you about working in the office, there's a facilities maintenance aspect of the business as well. So we have an entire team on each site that's responsible for maintaining the physical condition of the asset. So making sure that everything is working, making sure the appliances are working, making sure that the hallways are clean, making sure that the landscape looks great, making sure that, refrigerators are working, making sure that when someone moves out in an apartment, that apartment is now repainted, that everything is tested in the unit to make sure that it's still working and that it's in great condition for the next resident who's going to move in. So I think ultimately there are many different avenues that you can go into working in residential property management. There's sort of this traditional career path of working on site where you might start as a leasing agent and then work your way into an assistant manager position, then work your way into a property manager position. I personally started as a property manager on a site of about 150 units. Eventually worked my way into multi-site management and then into a regional role where I was overseeing multiple sites and multiple teams, and then into a vice president role and a senior vice president role. However, there are many people who really truly enjoy working on site and have no interest in sort of leaving site. And then there are people who might really be enthusiastic about working in a marketing role. So we've had team members who maybe started as a leasing agent, but then decided that they wanted to transition into a role working in our corporate office on the marketing side. So really a lot of avenues that you can take here. And it's really sort of getting into the business and seeing what speaks to you. There are also many different types of residential communities, as you can see by the slide here. Even within my portfolio of 12 properties in the area, I have high-rise urban assets. I have garden style suburban assets. I also have a lot of mixed-use communities that have retail elements as well. There are obviously newer communities and older communities. And so all of those different communities present different opportunities and challenges in terms of what you would do on a daily basis. So ultimately, what would make you a good candidate for working in residential property management? Well, one, you absolutely need to enjoy working with people. It's very customer focused and it's become more and more hospitality based over the years. It used to just be collecting the rents and paying the bills. And now it's become a much more full service industry in that we're constantly hosting resident events. We're really all about community building because this is where people live. This is where they make friends. This is where they meet their spouses. This is where they raise their children. So it is really all about building that community and making people feel welcome. So you like working with people, you are focused on customer service, you like variety in your day, you like to be challenged, you don't like to necessarily sit behind the same desk from 9 to 5 every day. You like to get up, walk around, tour the building, talk to different people, see what's going on. And most importantly, you like to work as part of a team. This is a very collaborative environment. It's very team-based. And every single person that works on site is integral to the operations of that community. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you. And I look forward to talking to some more of you in the chat afterwards.
Thank you, Jessica. We'd now like to answer questions that come in during our program. I invite all the panelists to come back on screen, please. Thank you. We have received a question that I'd like to put out to the panel for anyone who feels like they would like to answer. It has come in from one of our participants this afternoon. And the question is, there are many different opportunities in real estate, brokerage, management, construction, etc. Where do you see the best matches for recent Ivy League graduates? Anyone?
I could start, Killen, if that's fine. I think where you may have opportunities and where the best matches could be is it's dependent on what's driving your excitement in real estate. I think, they're very, you heard from all of us, there are multiple different pathways to get in there, and the road is never straight. I'll tell you, like starting out in my career, I worked on the financial services side where I saw quite a lot and how it evolved. I worked with Fannie Mae for many years. That's post GFC when the Treasury required us to reduce the footprint of Fannie Mae's position in the industry from an $800 billion balance sheet to a $225 billion balance sheet. And to get there, I thought I would have never actually been in a position where you see that experience. And to be able to see that, you see the US housing finance in a different light. So my suggestion to you is, depending on what excites you from an asset class, and being able to see that in an ability to translate the value that you bring to the table. So if you see analytics as being very strong, that's an area where you could actually go to a brokerage shop where you could find a very good apprenticeship in terms of learning how the economics works on deals, how to underwrite a deal, how to get from point A to point B in terms of selling that. On the from a ownership perspective, there is tons of shortage of people from Ivy League schools who are willing and interested in the analytics side. That could actually be very interesting. If you're interested on fundraising and actually seeing the rest of the landscape of equity providers, on the ownership side, there's a lot in that space right now when you think of the ability to actually get involved in there. Those are some initial areas, but I think it's dependent on what is driving your interest in real estate that would lead you down to the path of what you decide. So
Thank you very much, Ravi. I know that we're running a little bit behind, so I think we're going to move ahead and we're going to conclude this formal part of our presentation today. Again, I want to thank our panelists for taking the time to share about their professions and their personal experiences. And I hope that you've enjoyed this program today and have a nice overview of the various positions in the industry. We'll be sending out follow-up information, and again, this was recorded. We now invite you to join a breakout group session to speak with professionals about the industry that piqued your interest. We'll have representatives in 4 different breakout groups ready to greet you and have a brief conversation. We really hope you'll take the time to join. You will need to log out of this Zoom webinar and log into the link you received at approximately 2 p.m. this afternoon. Once you sign in, you can select the breakout group of your interest. We will have the Building Owners and Management Association group. We'll have the Commercial Brokers Association joined by the Real Estate Finance Association group. We'll have the Massachusetts Apartment Association group and the Greater Boston Association of Realtors group. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to having you get involved in our industry. Again, enjoy the rest of your day, and we hope you'll join us in our breakout sessions.